So yeah, the episode. If you want to talk about that.
Yeah, so before we even get into the episode, I want to talk about my experience getting there, because I've been doing stand-up, no agent, no representation. I end up meeting Bill Lawrence. I get on a television show, and my only acting experience, other than some commercials, is being a series regular on a multicam. Which is not whatever.
What show is that?
It's called Undateable.
Okay.
So then Allison Jones has me come in for... You can keep it over there. I'm good for a while.
Yeah, actually, me too. I'll put it down.
All right. So,
that was great, though. Thank you.
Yeah. Allison Jones had me come in. I auditioned for a couple episodes on the show Comedians, which was Josh Gad and Billy Crystal, and I got the part, and it was my first time acting. Like, I've done it as a series regular, which is a different experience because, in a way, it's like I'm treated like it's my show. I have a parking spot. I'm treated a certain way.
Right.
Everyone's introducing themselves to me, yada, yada. So now I'm a guest. So it's my first time as a guest. Also, I'm not with other of my peers like on my show. I'm with literally legends of comedy. You know what I mean? And I not only am I not nervous, I'm like, I for whatever reason, I felt like I belonged to be here, deserved to be here, in a way that was way more than even people who deserve to be there deserve to be there. I was just like, yeah, this is good. Like, I'm on a show.
I thought that was great, actually. See, I thought that was that kind of added to your intensity in that scene. You know, I liked your energy. Your energy was always really unique, and that was one of the things we liked about you.
Thank you.
Sure.
So I showed up, and I got in the van, and Josh is in there, and I know Josh. I don't know him personally yet, but oh, cool, nice to meet you. And then you got in, and I didn't know you were part of it. And there, at that point, there's maybe other than like the Spielbergs that do like big studio movies. I maybe know 5 television five directors, because those are the people that I want to work with one day.
Sure.
And you got in the car, and it was just like, what the fuck? And I remember you said something to me about one of the lines, and then I said something on top of it, and you laughed, and you said, save it. I've talked about this in another podcast, but I'll never forget this because that changed the way I see things forever. I never heard that saying. Since I have heard those sayings.
Yes,
I said to you, save it for the podcast
you
for the shoe
That's
stuff.
Right. Yes.
But when you said that, I knew what you meant. Maybe that's an obvious statement, but I don't know what people mean.
Sure.
So for you to say save it, a term I've never heard with a guy I don't know in a situation I've never been, and thought to myself, yeah, that one, it made me feel confident that you thought I had something to save. And 2, it's like, oh, that's something new to me. I never realized until that moment, at least not consciously, that energy is finite. Because especially for me, I'm blessed to have a big gas tank of it. And and I'm invincible. I'm not truly, and as I've learned, I feel like I have this star in Mario, but I'm running into things and we're both dying. But I think I could do whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm in the car, I have this dopamine rush, there you are. But you said it, so I actually felt in my body gas, I felt like, yeah, save it. I didn't talk.
Right.
I remember Billy came in. I didn't feel the need or want to impress. What am I going to do? I'm going to flip. But he gets in the car. I shake his hand. He gives me his rolled up script to shake, which I clocked and didn't feel offended because I thought I wouldn't shake my hand. So we're going over, and I'm thinking to myself, oddly too much, watch this, because you told me to save it.
Yeah.
Already so high, by the way. So there I am on set, destroying for all these people. No, but then the scene, it went really well. And so I'm feeling myself, I get so high so fast. So I'm feeling myself wanting to get into a story that's probably 3 minutes. I get insecure talking too much, especially because you need to be. I want to tell this story.
Yeah.
Could I do it?
Sure, of course.
Interrupt all you want.
I'm being an audience, and I'm enjoying myself.
Oh, couldn't have written this better.
By the way, if I may, before you launch into that, that's what I'm so happy to hear you talk this way, because really that's the job that I do, really, is I want to give you the permission and the security and the confidence to take that leap, and so anything that I did that helped you along that path, I'm very grateful for.
Big time. For somebody to have that effect when it should be such an intimidating presence is beautiful. And I want to direct. That's what I really want to do. And I've thought about how, I mean, this is a different conversation, but I have learned as I've gotten older that sometimes my directness comes across as aggression, which is a problem in itself, but for me not to recognize that, and for a lot of people won't say something to me about it, it makes for a disconnect in a way that I don't even know happened. So I have been conscious as I've been over these past few years learning how I'm being received, and I always think about that as if I'm communicating to people on set. So anyway, it's a side thing, but that energy is something I want to be able to have.
Yeah, I think you're very capable of that, obviously. You have that already. So it just has to be kind of channeled in that direction, that's all.
So we do this scene, and it was very cool because it's just a funny show. It was a funny show.
Yeah.
And it was a great scene. It was Billy Crystal's coming down into the basement for Josh Gad. They're about to go to an award show.
Correct.
And Josh and I are getting high downstairs. Josh is nervous that Billy Crystal he shouldn't get high in front of Billy, and Billy's like, I've been doing this forever. And I'm just the emulsifying agent in the room who's the only one who is on both people's side. And it was a fun part, and you let us improvise.
Yes.
And Billy and I, between one of the scenes, I remember I had a pitch to Billy, and I pitched him about a show he was on. I don't remember exactly what it was. But I remember I said to him, okay, I'm going to say this, you say this. And he goes, yeah. And it wasn't until afterwards I realized I told Billy Crystal, and he we were a team.
Yeah.
So I felt the scene went well. I felt safe and comfortable, and I did my job.
Part of his coolness also, part of Billy Crystal's coolness is that generosity as well. And you'll see that with Jerry Seinfeld, Billy Crystal, Larry David. They love to see other people score. They enjoy it. So he's very good that way, I thought. That was something he was very comfortable with.
As the point of the story unfolds, it's going to get into into where he became the most intimidating person I've ever met in my entire life.
There's another side to all of it as well.
And I know the story is when it happened. So I leave, I call my dad, because I'm nervous about everything I do. I've been doing stand-up at this point for 8 years. I go on the road. I haven't in a few years, but a couple years ago, I would cry. I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
It's terrifying.
Yes.
I've been doing it forever. I come on set for my first guest star with Billy Crystal and you, and I'm like, I could do this. So I call my dad. I'm in a very confident place, and it felt validating. I was written in for a third episode, and I'm like, all right, great. This is my only experience with acting. I guess this is my show. So there's a scene that was 3/4 of a page. It was Josh and I. It was added to the dynamic. Josh is upset that Billy likes me, and I'm saying, don't worry about it. Now both the character and me are confident that Billy likes me. And you don't call cut, and we go, and then you continue a little bit. And then after a few of those, Billy Crystal's in the background because he's in the next scene. So he's featured. You could see him, but he's not mic'd up, not part of it.
Right.
And I leave and I go, Billy! You don't call cut. And I go out of frame behind the curtains, back to the back, and I'm just in his face, Billy, baby, just like turning it on. And then you call cut, and he gave me a face that I recognized as not what it was before, but I didn't know what it meant. Quite literally. So I said, no good? Wanting him to be like, yeah, that was great. And he goes, not your show. And I got cold.
Wow.
I got cold because for the same way that you said, save it, I knew what he meant. And I didn't know about that before he said it.
However your balls had descended in confidence, they must have shrunk right back up into
high
yours.
enough to be in his hand because they were tiny. But I said to him, because I never heard this before. This thing that I've been doing my entire life of taking over and stepping on other people's toes, where somebody who I was able to hear, one, because of who he is, and two, because of where I am in my life, there's other people outside of your bubble.
Yes.
And he said it to me where I clocked it in my life and with him. And I said to him genuinely, thank you so much for telling me that. I had no idea. Like I was kind of speaking to him while articulating it to myself.
Right. And what was his reaction to that?
He just shrugged, and it is what it is. And I'm now it was just a 3-point swing, because not only is he not wanting me around, he did love me before. So I figured if he had money issues, he wants me as a roommate. Then we came in for another table read, and when I walked in, he said, the character name was Clifford. He goes, Clifford, they're going to have to write you your own spinoff. He was just basically busting my balls in a friendlier way.
Yes.
And he was so nice to me after that.
Right,
And
good.
he had me come in for a table read for something once, and he had a meeting with me, and we just talked about comedy, and it was very, very cool. And I've created this romantic idea, and here's the end of my story. Thank you for your patience.
Not
Maybe
at all.
I'll edit most
Not
of
at
this
all.
out. But
It brings up a lot of interesting themes, so go on. Please finish.
I don't know if this is true, but because that moment that he said to me brought such self-awareness to me in things outside of work, let alone within it, I appreciate it so much that I have this romantic idea that Billy likes me because he was able to tell me something and my ego didn't get in the way of it. I don't know if he noticed that or not.
Well, I think that's is that the end?
Yes.
Because what I want to say is, you have to put yourself in other people's shoes sometimes also, and think about him in that situation at that point in the season also, despite the fun of that episode. And that episode where they get stoned and go to the award show is probably the most fun episode we did, actually. But there was tension and there was pressure, and the ratings weren't good, and there was a disagreement about the direction of the show, not the physical direction, but the creative direction in terms of the writing. So there was a lot of tension going on there, and you may have walked into a moment without even realizing it, and Billy, being an aware person and not a cruel person, but able to what's good about the show is he's able to tap into that darker side of himself, that id part of himself, that sort of more trivial, petty part of himself, and he was able to play that really well. But in truth, like Larry David, he's not like that. He's a really cool guy, actually. And so I think when he said that to you, I'm projecting now. I think when he said that to you, I imagine he knew immediately that it was too much, that he had maybe hurt your feelings unnecessarily.
Oh, what he said was too much.
Yes. That he himself, just like you became self-conscious in that moment, I bet he became self-conscious also. And he had a moment of like, that was too much. I shouldn't have said that, because he's thinking basically he loves you. He does love you. He thought you were great. That's one of the reasons you came back. He had to be okay with that. So, and then he invited you to things afterwards to sort of do some penance for maybe that remark.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because nothing about it felt mean to me because I needed to hear it, but he doesn't know how I receive it.
Yeah, it's a cutting remark, even though you took it very well. It's still a cutting remark in a way, and the wrong person in the wrong moment could have taken it much worse than you did.
So in reality, the reason he was so nice to me and had me for other things, like as you said, was a penance. So had I not stepped on his toes, he wouldn't have been able to push me off. Had he not pushed me off, it's interesting. It's almost like wanting, like maybe I should instead of not letting my ego get in the way, maybe I should start becoming like a victim more.
Well, but I'm not suggesting that was the only reason that he called you in for
Yeah,
the
I
things.
know. I'm just saying
I think that's
point.
an important point. Also, in other words, that was an aberration. That was a momentary blip in your relationship with him. Essentially, everything had been good before that. Everything was good after that, and I think he realized that was one step too far.
But those are two moments.
But you needed it also. See, that worked out.
Those are two moments in my life that were within a week of each other on the same show. That there's like, I gained new tools. Once you learn how to use a hammer, you could use a hammer. But and there's been like eight or nine like big ones, and two of them were there. One was how to reserve myself, and two, why I need to.
Yes. Well, Billy Crystal's also like a great, and there's a lot of guys like this. I mean, he's been doing it so long. He really is an expert. He's like a expert witness in show business. You know what I mean? He knows all the rituals. He knows all the people. He's done everything. He's been a movie star. He's been a stage star. He's done it all, and you really can glean wisdom from him. You know, he does have it to share. And beyond that, unlike a lot of comedians and stars, he has a great family. He's great with his family. Very close, tight family that he's very generous with, and not at all the egocentric center of it, but part of this very, very vital family. So I was impressed and respected that also, just on that life level.
Yeah.
Tough to do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah!